right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Play, Pause, Rewind. We are coming to you again with another episode recording on Memorial Day. So happy Memorial Day to our fellow American peoples. Niles, how have you been the last couple weeks?
Been great. Been busy, been active. You and I've hung out a little bit this weekend, and I feel a little worn out from it too.
Yeah, the weekend was exhausting and fun. Last week was horrible in America for anyone who doesn't know, but
yes.
pretty devastating stuff there. But we're gonna keep it light this episode. We're talking about a very not intentionally because of that, but it kind of works out. I think everybody needs a little bit of a so we're talking about the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Yes.
And it's a goofy, silly little movie. And I think it'll be nice to have just a light, breezy episode talking about it.
Because on this podcast, I feel like we tend to talk about, we try to talk about a lot of newer stuff and a lot of like newer films and cinema and everything like that and TV series. And, I feel like we do tend to talk about superhero stuff and some more like dramas and stuff, like The Power of the Dog. And those are all fun to talk about. But, it is nice every now and then to just have a nice comedy thrown into the mix here. And, the unbearable weight of massive talent, I think it's the nail on the head there. It's light. It's funny. It's just a fun little comedy adventure film. And I feel like it's just apropos for this week.
Yeah, it's a type of movie that isn't made as much anymore. Like it's a low to mid budget comedy. The Cliff Notes non-spoiler synopsis is Nicolas Cage is playing a fictionalized heightened version of himself, and he's in financial trouble. He's not being a great dad really, and he gets a job offer to go to a guy's birthday party, Pedro Pascal's character's birthday party, for like $1 million or something. But while he's there, there's a twist. The CIA approaches him and they're like, hey, this guy is a huge like arms dealer.
Right.
We need you to work for us. And so he has to decide, is he going to help the CIA or is he going to trust his new friend, Pedro Pascal, who's we should find out his name real quick. I forgot.
I think it's Javi.
Javi. Yeah, it is Javi. Okay. Yeah. So it's about Javi and Nick Cage on their adventures. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it's Nick fucking Cage. It's a lot of fun.
It's very fun.
Cool. And there's
it's very meta.
Yeah, it was very meta. Nick Cage in this film, he's like you kind of said, he's facing some financial struggles. And I feel like it is loosely based on his Nick Cage in real life, because I'm not as familiar with it, I think, as you are, Dylan, but I've heard that he's just bought these absurd things throughout his like career. That's just like, I think he bought like a mausoleum or something in like Louisiana or something. Like he's bought like just absurd things that have just put him in like financial debt, and then that's why he just like
he does a lot of
these like this like just crap, just like films that are not amazing. Like they're just kind of like, what's it about? A talking whatever? Sure, I'll do it. Like I don't care what it is, I'll do anything. I'm Nick Cage.
He is having a bit of a renaissance, I think, though.
Yes.
And lest we forget, he is also like in the 90s, like he was huge. He's an Academy Award winning actor. Like he's very talented. He's just been in like really shitty, cheap movies for the last 15 years, kind of, because in an interview or Reddit AMA or something, he basically said like, yeah, I had a lot of debt. I had people to take care of, so I would just take jobs, but I never phoned it in, which probably didn't. I don't know. He's one of the more interesting people in Hollywood. I think he's very eccentric and odd, but he also seems like a really nice guy who's an interesting artist. Like, I think he's someone who will take a role because it's something that intrigues him. As much as needing a paycheck, but he's not going to turn down like a weird character or something like that.
Oh no, and I think he is exactly what you were just saying. Like he brings it every role. Like he's not like phoning it in. Like I think he's obviously a very smart guy, and he's been in Hollywood since like the early 90s.
Earlier, I think
Yeah,
80s
or
even.
even earlier than that. Yeah, like 80s. And so he's been through the ringer. He's done a lot of it, and I think he understands what it means to be an actor and how to bring a presence to a role, and he does a great job with that, I think. But he is kind of one of those very recognizable faces in Hollywood that, like, whenever you do see him on screen, it's just kind of like, that's fucking Nick Cage. Like, it just kind of pulls you out a little bit,
Yes,
yeah, like
definitely.
Like Sam Jackson or someone else, where it's like, that's Samuel L. Jackson. That
or Leonardo DiCaprio or Tom Cruise. Like, he's like, he is that level of like personality. And to people a couple years younger than us, probably only know him from his like years of bad movies, but like he's done a lot of really, really great work.
And a lot of the work a lot of that great work I honestly haven't seen.
I haven't seen a lot of it either, but
because I think, let's just get that out of the way. I don't consider myself to be a crazy knowledgeable Nick Cage fan. I think I was looking through all his movies, like, listed on IMDb before we hopped on this podcast, and I've only probably seen like 5.
Like, I haven't seen that films. Many either.
Exactly. Like, I've seen Gone in 60 Seconds. I've seen The Rock, National Treasure, Ghost Rider. But there's a whole lot that I need to see, like Raising Arizona and all that. What have you watched by Nick Cage?
I National Treasure. I watched. I loved that movie and its sequel as a kid. I've seen Adaptation, or at least part of Adaptation. Next is a movie of his I saw. It's not good. It's one of the earlier. I think it's like at the beginning of the bad movie stretch, but it's one of the like the trope where it was all a dream. At the end of the movie, it's all a dream. It's like a terrible storytelling trope. In movies, and he can see 2 minutes into the. I'm gonna spoil this movie because it doesn't matter. But he has the ability to see 2 minutes into the future for some reason. But he does, and he helps. He's like helping to stop a bomb plot or something. But his love interest is there with him, and she's in danger. And basically, the only memorable part of the movie is at the end, he saves his love interest, and then he's like, oh no, I made a mistake. And then the bomb blows up like several blocks away. And then he wakes up in bed from earlier in the movie and goes out to talk to the FBI people and is like, I'll help you, but she can't come. And then that's how the movie ends.
I forgot about, because I've seen that one too. I remember seeing that, and like, that's such a bizarre film.
But I have also seen Con Air on TV, like on network TV. I watched it at some point. So maybe it was censored for television, as movies often are or were. But that is a movie I watched in the classic old school TV watching way, where it takes like 4.5 hours to get through a pretty short movie because there's so many ads.
It's like you get 10 minutes of the film, 5 ads.
just watch Con Air or something at my grandparents' house in the afternoon. But so this film, though, it stars Nicolas Cage, Pedro Pascal, Lily Mosheen, Alessandra Mastronardi, Ike Brian Holtz, Tiffany Haddish, Sharon Horgan, Neil Patrick Harris, and Paco Leon, and some other people. But that's a pretty fun cast. Directed by, where did I write that? Oh, Tom Gormican, and written by Gormican and Kevin Etten. Non-spoilers, like, it's fun. It's a fun little comedy movie. We don't really see that many of these anymore. Just like low to mid-budget comedy action movie. Like, it's great. It's just a little fun time.
I think it is reminiscent of a lot of those films that Nick Cage has done before, where I mean, because we're not like super knowledgeable of like all of his films, we haven't seen all of them, but at least some of them, like, Next, not a bad film, I would say. It's kind of weird that I remember it's coming back to me right now. But I feel like Nick Cage, he does kind of have this subgenre in cinema of these kind of, to put it in the best way possible, I guess, would just be like kind of half-ass action flicks with just like hard-ass acting. Like, he goes balls to the wall in the acting, but like just kind of like, this is a half-ass action flick. But
I think a lot of them are just like not half-ass, but just low budget. Like, like,
that's a better way to put it.
Like, you have Die Hard on one level, and then you have like a Nick Cage action movie on a much lower level. Like, they're not the same, but then you have like his more interesting recent work, like you have like Pig and Mandy, neither of which I've seen, but both of those are very revered films with great performances by him. So it like you get so much weird stuff from him and varied stuff, which is really cool. This is in this movie, I think, even if you don't know a lot about Nick Cage's career, it's still funny on its own, but it definitely uses him as like fuel for the humor, I think.
Yeah, like Nick Cage is kind of a meme machine in modern culture. Like so many of his like, you know, you could just like grab a screenshot from like one of his films and it's like that's a meme now. You just
well, the shot in Con Air where he's like coming out of the plane and he's like getting out of prison or something and he's just smiling at the fresh air and his like really long hair is blowing in the wind. It's a funny like gif. But like it's in the trailer, so I won't count it as a spoiler. But he is at Javi's place and he sees the statue of himself holding the two guns.
Yeah,
and he's just like, is that supposed to be me? It's grotesque. I'll give you $5,000 for it. It's just good. But yeah, it's just like we don't have a lot of specific stuff to say about it. We'll talk more in spoilers because it's not like a deeply plot thick movie or thematically very deep. Like it's very basic, like, oh, it's a classic like Nick Cage character. Oh wait, that's another movie I've seen of his where he's like he's like this, like it's the 90s movie, the 90s Christmas movie. It's like Christmas season and he's at work and then he gets like a glimpse into what his life could have been, where he like is not super rich and he lives in Jersey and has a wife and kids, and then the wife gets taken back away from him and he goes back to the business world. But it's like that type of 90s dad movie where he's like, oh, he's not really being a great dad, he has to reconnect with his kids, and stuff like that. But do you want to talk spoilers, or do you got where you want
maybe
to say?
I got like, just before we dive in, just a few like small things, like this is definitely, this film is a love letter to Nick Cage's career. Like you look up like any reviews of this movie, that's gonna be like right in the opening paragraph. It's like, this is a love letter to his career. And that comes across really well. It's a fun ride. Doesn't really take itself too seriously. If we have to kind of nitpick about this film, because we do sometimes with movies that we review, one thing that I would just complain about maybe is just the writing is maybe just a little bit formulaic at times, like a little predictable. Like, I don't know, I feel like I saw the twist coming, and that's okay though, because it's a comedy. It doesn't need to be like crazy complex, or anything like that. So I think the writing is, even though it's not amazing, it's not a big deal for me.
No, I think it was all right.
Yeah, and then I won't list that complaint just because it's a little bit more of a spoiler, so we can get more into that later. But one of my other complaints is just again, not a huge deal at all, but Nick Cage is such like an iconic actor, and he's strange and just kind of a little bizarre and eclectic. And I feel like they just could have taken it maybe a little bit further, a little bit more over the top in some areas. Like, he's just so bizarre and out there sometimes. It's like, you could have just taken that maybe one step further and at just some points in the film. But overall, I agree with you. This is a fun, lighthearted comedy. It's just a good old time,
Yeah. And like the movie uses Nick Cage and his strange career as humor fuel, but it's never mean spirited. Like it's like in good fun, and like you said, a love letter to his career. Like the people who made this obviously are very familiar with his work and like him a lot.
Exactly. So yeah. He's a cool dude, and it's just a fun, cool movie. If you're looking for something that's just fun to watch, this is an excellent film to do that.
Yeah. All right. Spoilerino time. Let's do it.
Let's get into it.
Definitely uses the meme status of Cage, as we talked about already. Like he is a heightened version of himself. His silly career is a big focal point. There are different characters who talk about there's when the CIA people are following him, Tiffany Haddish's character is like, have you seen Crudes 2? And then the other guy's like, no, I haven't seen Crudes 2. I'm in my 40s. I've seen Con Air.
They lean hard into that.
I just love. He's like, why the fuck would I have seen Croods 2?
I love that. That was so funny.
So fun.
So many of those jokes that they pepper in there are just really funny too. With like the CIA agents, like they play a minimal role in the film, but like some of those jokes are like, don't focus too much on him. He just found out like his dad's fucking his wife or something like that. It's like that's not exactly the story, but.
You're right. I forgot about that. They just drop that in there, and it's never mentioned again. But also, it's like both of them die. They both get shot. Like
they're CIA agents. Yeah,
it's a lighthearted movie, but like there are real, like they do enough to lay out real stakes to where at the end, you know, like you're a little worried. I thought Pedro Pascal. I thought Javi was gonna die. He didn't, fortunately.
Yeah. I was happy about that too. And I mean, to like, I guess, bring about all the spoilers. So, you know, as the movie goes on, you know, we realize that the Javi, Pedro Pascal's character that we thought was the villain who like kidnapped this the daughter of the president or something like
a presidential candidate.
Yeah, they kidnapped the daughter. But it turns out it was actually his boss in the drug kind of crime ring who was actually doing that. And so that's kind of
cousin.
Like, his cousin, yes. Yeah. And so like, you know, that was one of those twists in the film where I was like, I kind of saw that coming, and you know, it was kind of on the nose. I feel like through, the first half. I
actually didn't see it coming just because I'd seen the trailer several times, and based on the trailer, I had a different expectation for what the narrative was going to be. I thought it was going to be like Nick Cage having to choose between his new friendship and like helping the CIA bring down a drug organization. So I thought he was just gonna like side with Javi, and they were gonna like Thelma and Louise it out. Like
that would have been cool.
So
I mean, they kind of were driving around together, going a little bit like Thelma and Louise.
I love when they like drive out and they're both planning on killing each other because they're being forced to, and then they're just like holding guns at each other and crying. It's like, I don't want to kill you. I don't want to kill you either.
I love you. I love you too. Oh.
The Paddington 2 joke, was so funny. When they're talking about like top 3 movies, and he's like, number 2, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, number 3, Paddington 2, and Nick Cage is like, what? Like, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Paddington 2, like what happened there? He's like, I cried the whole time and it made me want to be a better man. He's like, okay, man. Hard cut. They're crying. He's like, Paddington 2 is fucking amazing. I love Pascal's delivery. It's like, I fucking told you.
Yeah, I love that. That was such a great joke, and I've never seen Paddington 2.
I haven't seen them either, but I need to watch them. There's a Twitter account that's currently called I Photoshop Paddington into a new movie or TV show every day until I forget. And every single day he posts a picture of just a shot from some movie or TV show with Paddington inserted into it. It's so funny.
That's absurd. What a weird meme to ride.
It's a lot of work too. It's a lot of photoshopping.
It really is. Yeah, every single day you got to go into Photoshop and create that.
Yeah, well, I'm guessing he scheduled the tweets out at a time.
Probably.
But also it's like it's like a well-structured comedy, because like the Paddington 2 is just a little joke at first, but then it ends up playing into the emotional arc of Nick Cage's character with his daughter at the end, because he's like, oh, we should watch a movie you want to watch now. And she's like, have you ever seen Paddington 2? And it's like, oh, he has, because of the friend he made. And it's cute. And it's nice. I liked it.
It's got a heartwarming ending, because he's the character Nick Cage in this film, you know, he's kind of got these familial struggles too, of like, because he's always focused on his career. What's going to be his next big role? And like, he's never really, or he has connected with his daughter, but earlier in her life, she doesn't need Nick Cage in her life. She needs her father.
Right.
And he's kind of got these interesting family dynamics, because you know, I was kind of reading up on Nick Cage before we hopped on this podcast too, and you know, Nick Cage has been like married like 4 times. Like,
did not know that. No.
He's been married multiple times, he's been divorced, and so like the woman in this film is his like most recent ex-wife, and like it's it's interesting. But yeah, I think that it's just heartwarming how it kind of all comes together at the end, and they just connect through this movie. Paddington 2, I thought that was really nice, and
yeah, and it shows his growth as a person, because earlier he's pushing his taste on his daughter, and he's trying to like make her a new him, and he doesn't realize he's doing that, and he eventually like learns to be like a less self-centered dad, and it's a nice little mini arc that he has. But the main star of the show is the Cage Pascal chemistry and dynamic.
Yes.
They're so funny. They just get super drunk and they watch a bunch of movies, and then they decide to make a movie.
I thought such a good part of like the film too is just like, what are we going to focus it on? Okay, let's just talk about these two guys making a movie together, and that's just the crux of it. And like that's where they kind of get a little bit more meta with things, and like get to kind of like stretch their legs, and it's always been kind of a meta film, like through and through. Like it's Nick Cage playing Nick Cage, and like he's referencing all these movies like Face Off and all those other things that he's worked on. And but I feel like that relationship between him and Pascal, that's really where they can start to like explore a little bit more. And that middle part of the film, I think, is like just great through and through. It's got so many great moments. And Pedro and Cage, they have such a great back and forth, like
they
comedically.
It's really fun.
Yeah, they're really endearing.
Yes, and the funniest sequence of the film is when they take LSD together and go into town, and then they just get so paranoid. They're just the two guys sitting there, and it's like, are they looking at us? I don't know. I think they are. And then they just like are very loudly saying that, so the guys look over. Fuck, they're looking at us.
Just do a fake laugh and look over at them. Okay. It's so absurd.
And then the best joke in the movie is like they come to this wall. They're like, how are we gonna get over the wall? And then Nick Cage climbs the wall, and they're like crying and saying goodbye. It's like, you have to go without me. And then he's like, oh, and then he falls over, and Pedro Pascal's like, wait, and just walks around the wall.
I love that part. Like,
it's such a great visual gag. He's just sitting there and like, oh,
because that is totally how like people, not totally, but like people on drugs and acid. I think that was a funny portrayal of just like, oh yeah, we don't fucking know what we're doing. We're just kind of
well, and then they get in the car and just hit everything.
Oh, that was absurd. Oh, that was great. I thought that was a really good part. And like they were talking like in such like a meta way about like the film too. They're like, oh, like what I really hate in like films is like or comedy films is when it's just like a lot of talking, like, and there's not a lot of slapstick or anything like that. And then like they talk a lot. This movie, they kind of like talk about all these tropes that are just like over the top, or like they've been just like overplayed, like these like in movies and comedies in general, and they're just boring, like shoehorned action and all this stuff. And then like later on in the film, there's a lot of shoehorned action in the film.
Yeah.
Like,
well, because the CIA agents are like, just talk, like make it have a kidnapping. So he'll start talking about, and maybe you'll get information about where this girl is. And then Pedro Pascal is so sad because like that we were making a serious drama, and you just want to shoehorn in this action and a kidnapping. Like, what are we making? What type of movie are we making? And then it ends up being prophetic for the plot of this movie, which ends up being the movie they make, which is really fun.
And I love that. And I just love it when films like this can just like lean hard into those tropes and get a little meta with them too, like just really on the nose, like, oh yeah, we're talking about a comedy and like being paranoid, and then all of a sudden they become paranoid about those people they run off in that whole wall sequence. Is just, I think that's really funny.
It's a very it's clever in its humor. It's not dumb, it's clever, it's positive, it's like lovingly written. And we also, there's another dynamic we haven't talked about yet. We have Nick Cage and then his younger, like imagined self, sort of his not really a shoulder devil in the traditional sense, just like the guy who's always saying, you know, like, you got to push for that next big role. You're Nick fucking Cage. And it's a de-aged Nick Cage in a leather jacket with like the long hair that he used to have at one point, and he's just like a total like psycho, and it's really funny.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a specific like that image of Nick Cage is from one of his like films, I think.
Okay.
I can't place it, honestly.
Yeah,
Someone else probably can who's listening to the podcast. But yeah, that relationship between him and his younger self is kind of an interesting thing to put in the movie too. You know, and I didn't really mind the CGI stuff. It was kind of a little weird.
Yeah, it's not perfect. It's pretty rubbery, but it's a lower budget movie and it's not that important. Like, it's not deal breaking, I don't think. It looks good enough. So it looked better than like Jeff Bridges in the Tron Legacy movie. But that was not to knock on that. That was the first time they really did it, and it was like over 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's come a long way. It's not on par with like some of like the Star Wars stuff that's been put out now, but exactly what you're saying, like this is lower budget film, and it is kind of like akin to, you know, those earlier Nick Cage films that exactly don't have a lot of budget, and they're just kind of going at it as hard as they can because they're passionate about the cinema. And, but it was an interesting like thing to put in the film of just like, it's a devil on his shoulder, just talking to him all the time and being like, you got to get this role, and get back on top because Nick fucking Cage. Like,
well, it's the part of himself that he has to leave behind to be a better person. Like, he has to. It's the part that's keeping him at arm's length from his kid and his ex-wife. So he like eventually moves beyond it and embraces like who he is now. And he also succeeds professionally because the movie he and Javi make is like a hit. So that's I wish, because I think they did it like once or twice in the film where they like kind of zoomed out from those like conversations he was having with himself, and it was just like him talking to thin air. Yes.
You know,
well, he's driving in the car. Oh, he lets the guy out. He pulls over to let the
get out of my car. Like, I just wish they had like a few more shots of that. Like when he was like, I think there's like a scene of them like making out. I just wish we saw that, like just like the bartender walk up.
I forgot about that.
He's just kissing the air. Like, that would have been funny. Like, but it was a good kind of add in there. It was like a good way to kind of symbolize him, you know, letting go of his past stuff, growing. Yes, exactly. Growing up a little bit. You know, one of my other favorite sequences too was that the poison antidote part at like, you know, where he was kind of like snooping around Javi's place, and then it's like, oh yeah, there's a guard on the way, and then he like accidentally poisons himself.
Well, it's like a sedative or something, right?
Oh yeah, sedative.
And he's supposed to put it on his hand to like touch the guard, and he puts it on his hand and immediately like wipes sweat off of his face.
He's like, I just touched my face. Nick, what? It's like, I'm pretty sure I touched my face. And like, then how they got him to come back was like action and muscle.
Yeah, that was great.
Back. That was funny.
Okay, because he needs like he needs the adrenaline shot to bring him back or something like that. It's a funny sequence. He's trying to break into this like the security room to get information on where this girl is. And it's just like the whole movie is just fun. I liked it, and it is a little bit formulaic in terms of like action comedies, but whatever. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I think it delivers on what it promises to be. Like through and through, like it's like there's just going to be a slightly meta film about Nick Cage, and I feel like it just comes through on that in a lot of regards. Yeah, it is formulaic. Like I said earlier, I saw all the twists coming from a mile away. like, you know, the villain reveal, and like, you know, there's kind of this like slow build up of like him before he discovers the memorabilia room. We think that this might be the dungeon where the girl is,
right?
And then he's like, you don't want to go in there.
Well, yeah, Pedro Pascal's like, a relationship will change forever if you go in this room.
It's like, oh, what is this? Like,
it's his Nick Cage room. And that's where the statue we mentioned earlier is there, and then a bunch of other like artifacts from Nick Cage. And then they use the guns later in the movie.
That's the good firearm on the wall where it's like, oh yeah, well that will come in handy later.
Chekhov's gun. Yeah.
Chekhov's gun. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think it's funny because Nick Cage takes one of the golden guns and that's what he's gonna kill Javi with, and then he's like, "You're gonna shoot me with my own gun." It's like, it's my gun.
I use it in the film. Come on.
Yeah, they have a great comedic back and forth, and it's funny and just I don't know. It's a weird relationship, but it's really cute as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And I think if there's one of my other downsides of the film was just maybe the villain a little bit. I didn't want to like spoil it too much earlier, but we kind of get that reveal that it's not Javi who's the villain, it's his like upper, like the boss is actually his cousin who's actually the boss of the criminal enterprise. Javi's just kind of the face of it. So he's kind of behind the scenes pulling the strings, and I feel like we could have maybe gotten a little bit more development of that character, but at the same time not really needed. And then just the way he behaves too is, I don't know, a little unrealistic for me. I think I talked to you about this when we were like leaving the movie theater of like, you're like blazing down this street in like broad daylight, firing guns at Nick Cage. Like, you don't have any more goons that you can send after him. Why does it have to be you chasing him? Like, but
I think the logic of comedy movies is just different than every other movie. It's like, what will be the funniest? Do that. But I also love the way they get into where the girl is and eventually Nick Cage's daughter, because she gets kidnapped. The kidnapping plot happens in the movie, as we alluded to. The way they get in to the compound that the cousin is in is Nick Cage puts on a bunch of prosthetics.
Yeah.
His ex-wife did makeup and prosthetics for him on a movie, and that's how they met. So she makes him look like this other criminal kingpin, and he goes in, he's like giving a really eccentric performance to be this guy.
Yeah.
And it's going well for a little bit, and then it all goes wrong. And then he kind of like ninjas his way out of the situation.
Yeah. He like totally just like punches them and like distracts everyone with his acting for a second, is able to shoot like 3 guys. And it's like, Jesus Christ, you hired the worst goons to like patrol your perimeter and everything. Yeah. And
then you also have the love story of Javi and his like housekeeper person who he feels like he can't be with because he'll put her in danger, and then they get to fall in love too and be happy. It's just fun. It's like an hour and 45-minute comedy movie, and it's just a good time. That's all.
Yeah, we honestly don't have a ton to say about it.
No.
As you can tell,
we're kind of repeating ourselves a little bit, but
I would say just a little bit.
Yeah. So like overall, I would say it's simple, it's charming, it's a good time. I would recommend it to most people. Like it's just a good movie. Just cute.
Yeah. I was just looking over my show notes just to see if there's anything else I really wanted to bring up. But
and it's a type of movie we don't see all that much anymore. It's on the lower end of the mid-budget tier, and those in general don't get made much these days. It's either really big or really small. And then also like it just seems like an idea that some guy had and was able to make, and that's cool. Like you always want to support stuff like that, even if it's not your thing.
He was like, I wonder if Nick Cage would do that. I bet Nick Cage would do that.
Nick Cage would do that, yeah.
And one other thing I'll say about this movie too is like a lot of these characters, Javi and Nick Nick and his daughter, they connect with each other so much through movies.
Yes.
They talk about so many movies in this film, and it's just nice to see that kind of like dynamic, I would say, like presented on screen, because movies do have this powerful effect of like bringing us together and like having conversations, and you can like have movies that have like powerful social commentary and political commentary, and then you can have films like this that are just fun and just lighthearted, and it's just kind of like a nice thing to watch with your family on the couch like a Saturday night. And it's this movie, I think it speaks to that idea of just like how powerful cinema is. It can bring people together. Movies don't need to be groundbreaking to bring you together. Like not every movie needs to be Parasite or Up from, these legendary filmmakers that are just creating these amazing films. Like, even bad movies, like, can bring people together too. Like
Room. The Room, like
The Room.
the best example.
it's a terrible movie, but it's really fun to watch. Like,
it's really fun to watch, and it's like spawned a genuinely like cool thing. Like, Tommy Wiseau obviously is kind of like not perfect as a dude. It seems like he has some darker traits as well, but I love the story of the Disaster Artist, because like Tommy Wiseau wanted to be a famous movie maker, and he put his heart and soul into this piece of shit that he really believed in. And now like millions of people love it. Not for the reasons he intended, but millions of people do love it. And they love him and Greg Sestero and all the other people involved. Like, and the two of them are friends now. So it's like, it's a heart, like that's one side of the power of movies. It's like just chasing after dreams and bringing people together, and it's cool and fun.
Yeah. That's art. That's art.
It's cinema. But yeah, anything else on massive talent?
I will just say, thank you, Nick Cage, for making this movie. If you're listening. But this, I mean, it was just fun. There's so many good references and jokes. And if you're a big fan of Nick Cage, why haven't you seen this movie? Like, I think, we're very casual fans of Nick Cage. I think I like the memes a lot more than I like some of his movies, but I haven't seen a lot of them. But if you have seen a whole bunch of his movies like Raising Arizona or Face Off or any of the other big ones, Con Air, I think you'll love this film. And thank you, Nick, for making this, because it's just such a fun lighthearted film to watch.
One of the most like unique voices in Hollywood acting, Nick Cage, I would say. But yeah, so let's with that, let's talk about some other stuff that we've been watching. What have you been seeing recently?
Yeah, so I just finished The White Lotus on HBO Max. I think I might have mentioned it in our last episode, but
I think you did.
Yeah, The White Lotus it's just such a fun, interesting show too. It definitely highlights white privilege in all its glory, vacation culture as well, and like, not to give away too much about it, but I feel like it does a good job of highlighting like how certain cultures, we kind of like here in America, like the upper class, we kind of use other cultures and like getaways, like getaway vacations, as a way to just kind of recuperate and kind of reset our lives. But for those people that live there, that's their everyday life. They have to put up with these rich white people. They have to kind of endure it, and like that's kind of like a central crux of the show. But like, I'm not doing a great job of like summarizing what it is, but it's just such a great show. I would highly recommend it on HBO Max. And yesterday we watched Moulin Rouge,
because you can. That's the only thing from that movie I know, because I haven't seen it yet. Is it good? Should I watch it?
It's beautiful. I mean, it's such a fun movie. Like, it's a musical, and we set out to watch it because we're big Drag Race fans, RuPaul Drag Race. And on the most recent season of like the regular show, they do a musical every season, like all the drag queens do, and it changes every season. And the most recent one was Moulin Rouge. So like, we wanted to watch this movie because like I didn't understand all the characters. Like, who are these people? Who's Satine? Who's the Green Fairy? Like all this other stuff. So it's kind of cool to just watch it, and it's beautiful. Like Nicole Kidman and Ewan McGregor, they do a great job in those movies, or in that movie. So I would definitely recommend it. It's kind of like a good cornerstone of like gay culture cinema, which is fun.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Well, it's just because it's a musical,
okay.
I'm making assumptions, of course, about what this movie means to a lot of people.
Okay, got it.
But I liked it, yeah. And speaking of Ewan McGregor, I just started watching the Obi-Wan series because it got released this last week, and I'm loving it so far. It's great.
Yeah. I also watched the first two Obi-Wans that came out. I like it. I think it's cool. The first episode is exactly what I wanted the whole thing to be. So I loved that one, and I liked episode 2 as well. We'll do not spoilers for this until we do an episode on it. But
yeah,
the first episode is like Obi-Wan being very sad and living a shitty, miserable life on Tatooine, in exile while he watches over Luke, and he's having nightmares and PTSD. And it's like, that is what I wanted the whole project to be. Not a marketable product for Disney, so they were never going to do that. I understand that, but yeah, I like it so far. There's some cool stuff in there.
Yeah, it's neat. I'm excited to see them kind of build out the Star Wars universe a little bit more without betraying what's been already established.
Yeah, I still maintain my concern about Vader in the show. I don't want them to meet. I don't want to see Darth Vader right now. Anakin in a flashback, I want to see Hayden Christensen get another shot to play the character, because he, I think, got unfairly maligned for the prequels. That's not his fault. Literally no one is good in those movies. Some of the best actors working today are in them, and they are not good.
Yeah, I think they I haven't watched a bunch of like all the stuff that they've been like I think that they had like a panel or something before like Obi-Wan went live or something like that, and like they were talking like Ewan and Hayden. They're like, oh yeah, bless you. They were just saying like the prequels were underrated and they needed time to bake, and it's like, sure, they're still really bad movies.
Yeah. Well, I think what they were saying too is like they're happy that they are being embraced by the fandom at this point. And the movies are as well. By like, we grew up with the prequels. We both think they're bad, but a lot of people our age who grew up with them, like, they love them. That's not true across the board for a lot of people. I really hate when people older than us are like, well, now that the kids who grew up with the prequels are adults, like, the prequels are popular because that was their Star Wars. It's like, motherfucker, we had the original trilogies too. Like, we watched those movies all the time. Stop saying dumb shit.
Yeah. We should definitely do a whole episode on Obi-Wan. So
yes,
I think that's on the horizon.
But yeah, so I guess Kenobi, I've been watching that as well. They should have called the show Kenobi.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't.
I started a new book series this week called The Dresden Files. It's a long-running series. It's been going for like 20 years, I think. They're like 14 books, but it's this like wizard who lives in Chicago and consults with the Chicago PD on like supernatural crimes.
I love that.
And yeah, and he just like I'm like a third of the way through the book, I guess. But it's a quick read so far, and it's kind of fun. His name is Harry Dresden, and he lives in like a shitty basement apartment with his huge cat. And
a chonker cat.
Yeah. I think the cat's like supposed to be like 35 pounds or something.
Oh, that's a chonk.
But it's cool so far. It's different. It's in like modern for when the book was written, Chicago. So I think it's the early 2000s. I that's like cool. It's kind of fun. But there are like 14 of them, so it'll be a long project to get through them eventually.
Yeah.
But I also saw Top Gun Maverick on Thursday. I went to the IMAX theater, and that film is it's a masterpiece. It's amazing. If you go see it, we should talk about it because it's great. It's that good.
I might. I mean, you keep saying it's great, and like every review I hear about it is great.
It's like a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's like my whole theater was like cheering and laughing and crying and just having a great time. And it's like, there's Top Gun here. It's a good, silly movie. Then there's Top Gun Maverick. It's like night and day. It is like, people are calling it the best legacy sequel that we've had so far for a movie.
Wow, high praise. That's good.
I don't know if I would say that. Maybe I would, but it's really good. And I also watched the entire episode run of Stranger Things 4 that came out.
Oh my God.
I watched the first one Friday morning, and then I watched the other 6 yesterday. I watched it from like 4 p.m. to 1:30 a.m.
Hot damn.
It's really good, man. It's good.
Well, yeah, I need to get on that because I haven't started season 4 yet.
Yeah,
that's good to hear though.
It's great. Like no real spoilers. But like the show leans into and embraces the idea that this group of teenagers have been dealing with this supernatural bullshit for a couple years. So like, in previous seasons, they're all kind of doing their own mystery searching and then meet up at the end. In this one, it's like, oh, shit's going down again. We need to group up.
Yeah. Like, I'm recognizing the signs. We need to give Will a call.
But it's well, at least the characters that geographically can meet up meet up very early, but it's a little creepier and darker than previous seasons.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Season 3 was creepy. Ugh.
Really? The Russian one?
Well, just like the monster was very.
Oh yeah. Oh, the body snatcher stuff was pretty creepy.
Yeah. That stuff is weird.
This one, it's like you have it like people just are getting killed in really gruesome ways. Like their bodies are like bones are just like snapping into different places, and like their jaws are flying out of place and stuff like that. It's really creepy. And you don't know really what's going on. Like there's a new entity at play from the Upside Down, and it's cool. I liked it a lot.
Into that.
And there's oh my god, some of the scene transitions are so awesome. Like there's I'm trying to think of one. They're like, I don't know. You'll see when you watch it, but like the camera just like pans away from one of them. It goes into the sky, and then it pans down, and we're in a new location, or it pans into like the white wall or something, and it transitions into the snow in Russia. It's like it's very creative.
Well, cool.
There's one shot where like characters are riding bikes, and then the camera starts going down and turning upside down, and then we go into the Upside Down.
Ooh, that's fun. They've always done like really cool stuff with like the camera work, I feel like, in Stranger Things. That's great to hear. That's on brand, and they're meeting
it's the mark. Good. It's funny because there were so many snide comments from people leading up to the release this weekend, because like the show's been going on too long. Like all the kids are old now. It's like, yes, they're older now. The story has taken that into account as well. The writers are not dumb. I don't know why people cite that as a criticism. Like all the little kids grew up. Oh no, the passage of time occurred. What a flaw.
Oh shit.
But yeah, it's like all those snide comments kind of stopped after Friday morning. Because they were like, the episodes are too long, blah blah blah. And it did seem silly in a vacuum that they're all like feature length, which they are. But yeah, no, it kind of works.
Well, good.
And the season's a banger, so everybody who is like being really snarky about it's gotten real quiet since the episodes came out.
Well, yeah, I remember being like, hesitant about like my optimism when they were like, oh, it's gonna be 2 parts. We're breaking up season 4 into 2 parts, and like all these episodes are over an hour long. Like that's
the finale is gonna be 2.5 hours. But like it seems goofy.
So much time. That's just so much time.
It is so much time, but also and the first 2 episodes of the season, I did kind of feel like, okay, these are just a couple minutes too long. Like I like subconsciously, just because I was watching TV, it was like, I feel like this should be over right now. But maybe I adjusted or something, or the story just really picked up, because I stopped feeling that after that point. And the one thing I will say, and we've talked about it before, but like Netflix has got to stop with the binge model of releasing episodes.
Yes.
Like, because the way they did it with Arcane was so great. We got 3 episodes a week for 3 weeks, and it built up hype and word of mouth. And these episodes are long enough to where if they did like 2 a week, you got almost 3 hours of Stranger Things every week, and you would have people talking about it. And Netflix is not doing very well right now financially. They laid off a ton of people. Their animation department, they're basically killing.
That's not good.
Not fully, but they're really cutting back. And it's like, I think this is part of the problem. It's the binge release, because people like me, like I will do it if I'm given all the episodes and I have time. I'm gonna sit down and watch them all, and everybody else does that too. So you talk about it for a couple days, and it fades from the consciousness. Yep. And then you don't have a reason to sign into Netflix really until the next thing you're looking forward to comes out. Whereas like with Disney Plus, People talk about it every week. HBO, people talk about it every week.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think that is a valid criticism, and it is, I think, a little more difficult for certain types of shows. You know, if there's like a show that has like a lot of hype around it, like a Star Wars show,
yeah,
easier to drip feed that out week by week. But like with Netflix, they create like all these shows that are just like no one's really, there's not a lot of hype around them. You know, they're not doing like crazy marketing campaigns for them. So I mean, I totally
they do with some
saying.
of their shows, like for Stranger Things, they do. But that's Netflix's other problem is I don't think they really have real quality control. Like you don't know, and they have to get their shit together because they're not the only game in town anymore. Like when like the big guys are here, they're competing against Disney now and Warner Brothers. Like you got to step up your game if you're going to survive.
Yeah, I think there's like a funny South Park bit where it's just like they call in to like Netflix and Netflix is like, okay, what's your project? All right, we'll green light it, no problem. We don't care.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's like you're competing against Disney, Amazon, and Warner Brothers. Like you have to change up your strategy a little bit. And the weird thing too is like they're doing the binge model, but they've also split the season up, but they split it into 7 episodes in 2. Why? And why a month gap?
Yeah, it's
why am I waiting till July 1st to finish the season? I don't understand. I'm so confused by what they're doing here.
Who knows?
Whatever.
Well, maybe we'll do a Stranger Things episode at some point too.
Yeah, after July 1st. Yeah, I if it would feel goofy to just do it on the first 7 episodes. So I think.
Oh yeah. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, but we've got some content in the pipeline. Maybe Top Gun Maverick, Obi-Wan will do. I don't even know what else is coming up. I guess a Jurassic World movie. That's something.
There's all sorts of stuff coming up too. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. We finished Halo. We could do a Halo one at some point if you want.
Oh yeah. I still need to watch that final episode.
Oh, okay.
I haven't gotten around to it yet.
It's something. All right. But yeah, we'll update you all maybe on Twitter or something for the next episode if you want to watch ahead of time. That'll be in 2 weeks' time. Stay safe, be happy. Niles, where can people find you online?
People can follow me on Instagram at Niles Got No Styles. Dylan, where can people follow you online?
On Twitter at D-Day Movies, on Instagram at Dylan D Twin 26, on YouTube at D-Day Movies, and on Twitch at D-Day_movies. And that'll do it for this episode. This was fun. It was fun to talk about a nice little comedy.
Yeah.
See y'all.
Guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. And if you like the podcast, please give us a like or subscribe or review us. We appreciate any kind words that we can get about this. This is a lot of fun for us. And if you have anything that you want to hear about on the show, any recommendations, suggestions, feel free to just send us a message on social media or just like send us an email. I think we got an email set up, but
yeah, we do. It's but playpauserewindpod@gmail.com.
Yeah. So, but yes, thank you all so much for listening. We greatly appreciate it. And yeah, we will be back in 2 weeks' time with our next podcast episode.
Indeed. See you later. Bye.
Bye.